What if there were legendary Pokemon based on Los Angeles, California? Well, let's explore what those might look like in my custom Pokemon region, Alaya. Hey everyone, Brandon here. Allow me to tell you a little story. There once was a rodent that stood before a raging river, looking to cross. It stood nervously, not knowing what to do. Just then, a large bear appeared from the tree line behind the rodent. "Move," grumbled the bear, as the rodent watched the lumbering grizzly ford the river, its large, strong frame making it look easy. As the bear disappeared into its cave set deep in the mountain, the rodent said to itself, "If only I were as strong as the bear, I could cross the river." After a little time had passed, a mighty bird flew into sight, high over the river, following its path, landing in a tree across the river from the rodent. This caused the rodent to hide in the forest, to avoid being the bird's next meal. The bird then disappeared into the clouds, bringing the rodent out of hiding. The rodent then said, "If only I had wings like the bird, I could fly across the river." Sometime later, the rodent's friend, the stag, showed up, looking to cross the river as well. "You haven't crossed the river yet? It's easy, watch," said the stag, which then gracefully leapt to a rock halfway through the river. At that point, the rodent said to itself, "If only I were as graceful as the stag, then I could leap across the river." But just then, when the stag leapt to try to cross the rest of the river, its hooves slipped, falling into the water and being carried away, disappearing into the raging current. A short while later, the stag appeared across the river, but instead of its normal brown color, it was a striking white. The rodent then realized it wasn't his friend anymore, but their ghost. The rodent took a moment, sitting back in the forest, looking at what lay across the river for it, and said, "There are bears, birds, and ghosts across that river. Why would I want to go there?" It then turned around and went home. This story is an old Alayan tale, showing the importance of learning from others' paths or mistakes, and to not compare yourself to others. It might just mean your end. It is also based on the 4 legendaries of the Alaya region, 2 of which being our box legends for Pokemon Lapis and Pokemon Garnet. So allow me to introduce Calandor, the over Pokemon, and Ahwazlee, the under Pokemon. I worked with Foongoos to create these 2 and the other legends in this video, so make sure to check out their link in the description. The color schemes of these Pokemon in relation to their logos is a lot more subtle than most legends, mainly residing in their eyes. But as they say, eyes are the window to the soul, and so let's show what's in their soul by explaining their origins, after you hit those like and subscribe buttons to see more content just like this. So let's begin with Calandor, who is pure flying type. Its main inspiration comes from the California condor, an enormous New World vulture, being the largest North American land bird. It became extinct in the wild in 1987 when all of the living wild population were put in captivity. But the population has since been rehabilitated and reintroduced in northern Arizona, southern Utah, the coastal mountains of California, and northern Baja California in Mexico. Calandor also pulls a bit from the bald eagle, which felt fitting to add with it being a major symbol of the US and with the condor actually being bald. Calandor's name comes from Calafia, a fictional queen of the island of California, first introduced in 1510 by Garcia Rodriguez de Montalvo in his epic novel, The Adventures of Esplandian. Calafia is the namesake of California, though this California is instead found off the coast of Asia. Calafia was described as a pagan warrior queen, who led an army of griffin-riding women into battle. Though the California of this novel is different than the one we know today, Calafia has been adopted as an icon of the state, becoming known as the Spirit of California, with a mural of her being able to be found at the state capitol building in Sacramento. This mural was actually a major basis in Calandor's design, with the wings coming up to look like rays of sunlight peeking out from behind clouds. The inner white part of the condor's wings reminded me of little clouds in the vastness of the sky. The condor's impressive size and resilience, alongside the might of a griffin-riding pagan queen, made for a perfect basis for a legendary Pokemon. But the inspirations don't stop there. Calandor, as the over Pokemon, represents the sky, and more specifically the realm above the sky, also known as the Heavens, Elysium, or the Good Place. Many different versions of a paradise after death exist across the world, and in its design, Calandor definitely channels the realm of the Greek pantheon above Mount Olympus, but specifically the Disney incarnation from Hercules. Also, Lapis Lazuli roughly translates to the Stone of Heaven or the Stone of the Sky, with the blue and gold of the stone translating to the eyes and wings of Calandor. Many modern depictions of vultures make them out to be antagonistic or outright villainous, but the California condor is just so majestic that I wanted to subvert expectation and make it a beacon of goodness. Plus, in many native cultures, vultures represent cleansing, healing, and rebirth, purifying the decay from the world due to their scavengerous nature. I know many are going to ask, well then why not make it part fairy type? Well, spoilers, both box legends are single-typed, and we haven't had a single-typed box legend since Xerneas, unless you count Zacian and Zamazenta in their unarmored forms. We also haven't seen two single-typed box legends since Kyogre and Groudon, so I wanted to buck the trend of the last few generations. On top of all that, one type can represent multiple things at once without needing another type. With that said, I do have a nod to that we will discuss later. Legends say that Calandor was born in a nest made of clouds, and that it keeps those very clouds within its plumage as a reminder of where it came from. Calandor resides atop Mount Arcadia on the west side of Alaya, where it watches over the entire region, cleansing the air of any impurities using its mighty, lustrous wings. This is an example of its signature move, Glistening Wing, a base 100 flying type special attack, which removes any hazards from the field and removes any status conditions from its allies. It would also have the new signature ability, Heavenly Body, which protects it from status conditions and slightly raises the power of fairy type moves. So there you go, we have a little fairy type affinity thrown in there to add to its Heavenly Light reference. On the opposite end of the spectrum, we have Ahwazlee, which is a pure rock type. This legend's main inspiration is the California grizzly or brown bear. This species of bear has long since gone extinct, with the last one being hunted down in August of 1922. Though there were some sightings reported in 1925, thereafter these grizzlies were never seen again in California. This golden gray-furred bear still endures as a symbol on the California flag. Not only does it remain a symbol of the state, it may actually be the basis of the name Yosemite, originating from the Ahwazlee word Usumati, which directly refers to the bear, though the Ahwazlee people referred to the Yosemite Valley as Awani, loosely translating to gaping mouth, and the mouth in question is thought to be the maw of a bear, which is where Ahwazlee gets part of its name. You can see Ahwazlee's mouth is wide open to reference this, while also being reminiscent of the caves bears are known to reside within, being at the base of the mountain atop its back. Speaking of, the Ahwazlee were a band of the Mino and Miwok people, and there is a Miwok tale about how the El Capitan summit was formed. There were two bear cubs that did not heed their mother's advice and wandered off, both falling asleep atop a boulder. As they slept, the rock began to grow and grow, eventually becoming an enormous mountain which they were now trapped atop of. So Ahwazlee is a combination of the mountain and the bears that were trapped atop it. Like Calandor, Ahwazlee has a gold motif, but rather than representing the golden sunlight, these veins represent actual gold veins beneath the earth, and refer to the California Gold Rush, which led to the sudden and rapid growth of the state's population in the mid-1800s. The way the gold flows above its mountainous back also looks a bit like honey, which bears are notorious for enjoying. The combination of gold and the cave mouth of Ahwazlee also works as a reference to the Cave of Wonders from Aladdin. And yes, that means both legends make reference to animated Disney movies from the 90s, which, as I've said before, Disney Animation Studios got its start in California. Most of Ahwazlee's body being beneath the mountain on its back also makes reference to a mythological people known as Lemurians, who are said to live underneath Mount Shasta, in a hidden city known as Telos, which was said to be a city of light and opulence, with furred floors and jeweled walls, with the Lemurians walking its surface in white robes, hence the white and gold coloration on Ahwazlee, which looks like the snow-capped peak of Mount Shasta. I realize this combo of bear plus white definitely gives off polar bear vibes, but you can just think of it as a similar situation to Hisuian Avalugg, who refers to the melting polar ice caps. So naturally, with Calandor representing the sky and heavens, Ahwazlee represents caves and the underworld, also known as Hades, Hell, or the Bad Place. The afterlife has many eternal suffering-based depictions, so this Pokemon represents those, while still having a touch of purity thanks to its Lemurian inspiration. As such, its main ability would be called Undercoat. You like that double entendre? Anyway, it works basically the same as Heavenly Body, where it is protected against status conditions and slightly raises the power of Dark-type moves. It would definitely gain access to moves like Bite and Crunch with that gaping mouth it has, so this ability would help those do more damage. And I'm gonna hit you with another double entendre, as its signature move would be called Ender Bite, with an Ender Bite being a form of igneous rock essentially consisting of quartz. This move would basically be a more powerful rock-type combination of Crunch and Jaw Lock, a base 100 physical attack where the target would have a chance to flinch and would be prevented from switching out or fleeing a battle. Ahwazlee resides in the Abaddon Cave on the east side of Alaya, where it seeks out impurities within the earth and consumes them, absorbing and purifying them within its body. You can actually see this process happening within the gold veins across Ahwazlee's body. As you can probably surmise, these two have a theme of pollution within their dex entries. Most major cities have the issue of pollution of the land and air within and around it, so I thought making legends that prevented Alaya from becoming like real-life major cities would be an interesting route to take. And I would love it if you took a route down to that join button to become a member. You get amazing benefits like videos early, all the while helping me pay the artists I work with for these videos. So go ahead and hit that join button now. But that still leaves two animals from the story we have yet to talk about. So allow me to introduce Phantleer, the supernatural Pokemon, a pure ghost type. This legend's main inspiration is the California cryptid known as the ghost deer, though that's a bit of a misnomer as it's actually described to be a large white elk. It supposedly resides on Mount Eddy in Northern California. Hunters who have witnessed the cryptid reported that their bullets passed right through the animal when they shot at it, with the ghost deer disappearing into the forest afterward. The likely explanation is the hunters encountered an elk with albinism and weren't as good of a shot as they thought. But who knows, maybe it was a ghost? So with Calandor and Ahwazlee representing different directions of the afterlife, over or under, Phantleer with its ghost typing and cryptid basis represents the supernatural or spirit realms, the limbo between life and the afterlife that spirits reside between. The wisps around Phantleer's ankles are meant to look like rope, like how a deer might become trapped, showing how this Pokemon's spirit is still bound to this realm rather than moving on to the next. The golden antlers of Phantleer, while falling in line with the gold of the other legends, refers to a legendary deer or goat from Sylvanian folklore known as Goldhorn, which just like the ghost deer is white and lives atop a mountain. But the main difference is that Goldhorn has its shimmering golden horns that were highly sought after, as they were the key to finding the treasure hidden within the mountains around its home, Mount Triglav. As such, Phantleer is known to traverse the mountains across Alaya at night, residing at different parts depending on which day it is. It is said to carry potent spiritual energy with it, such that many ghost-type Pokemon will flock to its location, acting as a barrier from those who seek to exploit Phantleer's power. This spiritual energy is actually its ability, Ghostly Surge, creating a new type of terrain, Ghostly Terrain, that increases the power of Ghost-type moves by 30% and increases the likelihood that a move will cause flinch. This would work in tandem with its signature move, Haunted Horn, which is a base 80 special attack that can both go through shields and has a 20% chance to flinch the target. Phantleer would also learn other horn-based moves like Horn Leech and Mega Horn, given those are a major part of its design. So last but not least, we have the rodent of the tale, which is none other than Squireal, the natural Pokemon, a pure normal type. Of course, with Phantleer representing the supernatural world, Squireal represents the natural world, or the realm of the living, aka the real world. There is no afterlife without first having life, which is the center point between the heavens and the hells, the middle between the over and under. So Squireal acts as the bridge between these realms, with its gold-adorned tail reflecting a bridge, which itself is a reference to the world-famous Golden Gate Bridge of San Francisco. There are multiple myths across the world of squirrels being guides or messengers between realms, such as the famous Ratatoskr who climbs up and down the world tree Yggdrasil, and black squirrels in both Celtic and indigenous folklore were associated with the other world. Also in the Ramayana, a squirrel helps Lord Rama across a vast ocean, playing a significant role in the building of the bridge to Lanka, after which Rama blesses it with 3 white stripes down its back, which can be seen in the glowing golden white stripes along Squireal's tail. As such, this Pokemon traverses across Alaya's plains and forests, maintaining the natural order of the Pokemon world. The seed in its hands, while also acting as a reference to Yggdrasil, is the basis for its signature move, Realm Seed, a normal type physical attack that does 1 of 5 types of damage: Electric, Fairy, Grass, Psychic, and Ghost. The types of the terrains, including the new one Phantleer just introduced. The move will pick the type based on what will do the most damage. Kind of like if Flying Press was a 5-type move instead of 2, I thought the idea of a move that channeled the power of terrains to represent different realms of existence was incredibly fitting given Squireal's inspirations. Though, inversely, Squireal's new ability, Reality Check, makes it so terrain effects cannot be active while it's on the field, canceling out the surge abilities. If Squireal leaves the battlefield, whether by switching out or fainting, at that time the surge abilities will activate. Squireal, while being based on messengers between realms, is the natural Pokemon, so keeping the terrain from being changed made the most sense. I mean, I could have made a normal terrain, I suppose, but the most normal thing is for there to be no terrain. So how did these legends appear in Pokemon Lapis and Garnet? Well, obviously Calandor is a Lapis exclusive, and Ahwazlee is a Garnet exclusive. And actually, where you begin the game is different depending on the version. In Lapis, you start east and head west towards Calandor's domain, and in Garnet, you start west and move east towards Ahwazlee's domain. But what about Phantleer and Squireal? Well, those would be available in both games and act like roaming Pokemon. But since this is more of a modern Pokemon game, you wouldn't have to worry about random encounters, and would actually be able to see if they're around. They would venture around certain locations depending on which day of the week it is. But that means these little legends form trios in and of themselves. With Calandor, Phantleer and Squireal form a reference to Norse mythology, with Calandor acting as Hraesvelgr, the eagle-shaped Jotun, Phantleer acting as the forest stags of Yggdrasil that feast upon its branches, and Squireal obviously acting as Ratatoskr as I mentioned before. I know that the Gen 6 box legends are based on these specific Norse creatures, but these group themes aren't meant to be the main inspirations and are more like a fun little nod. With that being said, with Ahwazlee, Phantleer and Squireal act as a reference to a story from the Cree people called The Deer and the Squirrel, where a reindeer is in charge of naming all the animals. When it asks what the squirrel wants to be called, the squirrel says it wants to have a name like the bear. The deer then tells the squirrel it's too small to have a name like the bear. This makes the squirrel so sad that it cries until its eyelids become white, which you'll now notice that Squireal's eyelids are white to reference this. Also, the box legends are represented by carnivores, with them consuming pollution in one way or another, and the other two represent herbivores, changing or maintaining the landscape around them. Which legendary of the Alaya region was your favorite? Let me know. And with that, we're done with the Alaya region for now. But don't worry, another new region will be there to replace it next month, and it's going to be a fun one. A huge thank you to our amazing members who go that extra mile to support the channel, which you can also do by hitting that join button. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you all next time.